Ah! 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 Frenchie!
Thought you could use some help.
Yes, but next time, please don't be shy to use the shotgun.
Good one.
No, I'm being serious. You got a shotgun there next time? Next time, use it. Anyway, that's fine.
Wait. Are you for real? These are paranormal entities. I didn't even think this axe would work. I'm not going to use the shotgun.
Well, why'd you even bring it then?
Well, I had to do something. I mean, if I thought I was going to get this reaction, I would have just stayed in the pub.
I'm just saying, you didn't know the axe was going to work, but you used the axe. Next time, just use the shotgun.
Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah. How about this one? Just off the top of my head, how about saying next time, "Hey, Frenchie, thanks for turning up and saving my life. I'm grateful."
So The Nun is a movie released in 2018, starring Damien Bashir, Thaisa Farmiga, and Jonas Blockwet, and directed by Corin Hardy. Now, this movie is a spin-off from the main Conjuring Universe, or main Conjuring movies, I should say, and features around the character of the nun that was introduced in The Conjuring 2, or otherwise known as the demon Valak. And we get an introduction to that being the case, with the beginning of this movie being centered around the Warrens discussing the painting that Ed has drawn of the nun after seeing it in his dreams in the events of the second Conjuring movie. We are then reminded by Lorraine Warren about it actually being a real demon, something that both of them have seen, and this demon brought the warning message that effectively Ed was going to die. We then flash back to the events of this movie, and it clearly sets out that this movie is set in 1952. And the movie has to tell you that, because if you were to watch this movie, you would assume it was set in the 1800s. Why it wasn't just set in the 1800s, I don't know, because there's nothing modern about it at all. It's all in a sort of a very old abbey with candlelight and everything else you would expect from an 1800s period piece. But this movie also does explore the origins of Valak as well, prior to their arrival in the main Conjuring universe, or the main Conjuring movies. So the story centres around a priest who is tasked by the Vatican to go and investigate a death of a nun who has hanged herself. And not only does he have to do that, but he also has to assess whether or not the ground around the abbey in Romania is still holy. He then brings along Thaisa Farmiga's character, who is a nun who hasn't yet taken her vows, and they meet up with Frenchie, who is essentially their guide and he's the person who discovered the nun's body. And effectively, the movie centres around their exploration of the abbey to determine the outcome of this investigation. It really is a muddy film. Based on a simple premise like that, you'd expect it to be quite simple and quite easy to follow, but trust me, this movie does nothing to hold your attention throughout it. The main issue they discover is that because of the vow of silence, they have to prolong their stay at the abbey, and then upon doing so, or upon actually speaking to the nuns there, they are told that the gates are shut and sealed shut, so they can't leave the abbey until the morning, so they have to spend the night there. And then in that time as well, they have to do battle with Valak and try and vanquish the demon that has taken over the abbey piece by piece. And it's a lot more difficult than what it sounds, based because the demon is just super powered and able to overcome any obstacle they put up against it. Unless, of course, you're Frenchie swinging an axe, in which case it then turns into a remake of The Mummy. But, I mean, there are some good points in this movie, mainly centered around the nun itself, where you do have that same shadow effect that was used in The Conjuring 2 when the nun was first introduced, with the shadow moving across the wall and then taking up a position to reveal the nun form, or in full form. That is quite a good effect and a nice little tie into where it originated from. There are also some nice subtleties in this movie as well with regards to the overall horror theme of it, such as sort of having things happen in the background where your attention isn't drawn to it. But it's just something that's taken place there, and it suddenly just makes you gasp slightly upon when you notice it, just because that your attention isn't specifically being drawn towards it. Another example of that would be when the crucifixes are just turning upside down in the background of the scene when Valak appears, telling you that actually this is the demon that they're facing and not another projection of a different ghost or a different spirit. Unfortunately, that effect, as good as it is used very sparingly in this movie in favour for the over-the-top jump scares and random teasers of past trauma from the characters, which I understand it being done once, but when it's done repeatedly again and again and again, it does just lose its feel. Thaisa Farmiga is the younger sister of Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren in the main Conjuring movies. And I have absolutely no idea why they specifically chosen her to be in this movie. I'm assuming it's because she did do a decent job in this. She does do her best with the script, as weak as possible, but she does try her best to make this somewhat of a horror movie, and you can at least appreciate her performance on the screen. And the other nice little tie back to the Conjuring movies is, if you remember in the very first Conjuring movie, when Ed and Lorraine are doing the lecture circuit, they show a video of an exorcism that they're involved in, where you see the person is in trance, is speaking Latin, and the upside down cross starts to poke out of his skin. That person is revealed to be Frenchie, who is the guide in this movie. A nice little callback and a nice little tie-in with that overall universe, and it's something that a lot of these movies do very well. Unfortunately, that is the end of the good things I have to say about this movie, because whilst Thaisa Farmiga does do a good job with the limited script that she's got, the same can't be said for her co-workers, her other cast members. For some reason, they seem to be confused as to whether or not they're making a horror movie or, in fact, they are making a version of The Mummy, like an action-adventure comedy film. In particular with Frenchie, who seems to also have the same costume as Brendan Fraser's character in The Mummy as well at some point. And it is just a bit, it's just really hard to take seriously after you see that. And on the subject of Frenchie as well, he is perhaps the most irritating and annoying character that I've come across in any of these movies. Someone who, when he's introduced in, albeit a very serious situation and in a horror theme, he does try to come across as the comic relief of the movie, but fails so miserably and just comes across as desperate, cracking on to, Thaisa Farmiga, and then learning she's a nun, trying to say that, or assuming that, oh, you're the dad of another girl that I've slept with in the village. Oh, I have never met you before. Oh no, you're a nun. Oh, please forgive me for my impure thoughts. Oh, but you haven't taken your vows yet. Oh, is there a reason why? And it's just cringy, and does not fit in well at all with this movie. And I mentioned that this movie does absolutely nothing to hold your attention, and the reason for that is because very little happens in this movie. You get a sense of, or you understand there's a little bit of trauma with the main priest, where he has essentially tried to perform an exorcism on a young boy who's possessed. That exorcism goes wrong. The boy dies as a result of his actions. And he then starts seeing this boy in and around the area, resulting in him being buried alive and other bits and pieces like that. And whilst that would be terrifying in itself, just not really much time is spent on him being buried. All of a sudden, he's in a casket. Then all of a sudden, he's buried and the ground is laid perfectly flat as if he's been there for some time. And you don't really get that sense of dread built up like you do in the other movies. And I think this film does suffer with not really knowing its identity, whether it's meant to be a pure out and out horror movie, whether it's supposed to be suspenseful, whether it's meant to be just full of shock, horror, or in some points a comedy. But the pacing of this movie is just so slow. I mean, it's only just over an hour and a half long, but you feel as though it's so much longer, but just because nothing happens. And the quests of every single person in this movie, including the demon, including the villain, just isn't clear. You have no idea what they're setting out to do, or why they're doing what they're doing, or what they're trying to achieve. All you've got is a loose plot of go and see whether it's still holy ground and go and see what you can find out about this death. I mean, you found a body that's been hanging by its neck by a building, and the windows where it came out of are shut. So someone must know something about it to close the windows, or something else pushed her out. But I don't really see what other investigation is needed, other than the fact that, you know, suicide apparently in that world is a sin, so therefore what has driven her to do that. But again, none of that is made clear, and no one can really shed any light on that whole situation anyway. It's just, oh, it's just mind-boggling. It's so murky in its delivery. It's horrible. And I really do try to give some positives to this movie, because some of the other movies that I've seen as part of this franchise, as part of this universe, whether they're part of the main Conjuring movies or some of the spin-offs, I have enjoyed, and I am trying desperately to enjoy this movie, and there is nothing at all I can enjoy about it. It is dull, it's boring, it just ages you. And the scares don't even come off because they're so quick. There's no dread that's built up beforehand, and it's delivered. The scare's there, done, move on. And you don't even, I mean, you might get a little like sudden twinge of when you see something horrible in front of you, but that's it. And for all of those reasons, it fails, from in my point of view, it fails to deliver what a horror movie should. And for that reason, I've got no option at all but to award it with 2 stars. And the reason why it gets such a high rating for me is because at least Taissa Farmiga tries in this movie. But that was my review of The Nun, part of the Conjuring universe. What did you guys think about it? Have you seen it? Whatever you guys thought, please pop it in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will be back with another installment in the Conjuring universe, but until then, you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.